Oh boy.
All right.
Fucking
All right, here we go. I'm pressing record. Everyone shut up for 5 seconds. Here we go. All right, and welcome to a special impromptu episode of the infamous Chronicles. If you are joining us on Facebook Live, hello. Our first ever live stream, doing it through Zoom. You get to actually see what we look like now, so we apologize in advance for that. It was a rough day today. It was a rough day. A lot happened. If you are a Democrat, you woke up with good news for what happened in Georgia last night, and then you were pretty much immediately assaulted by what's going on at the Capitol. If you're a Republican, today was a rough day for you as well. You got to see what the worst your party can look like is, and I'm sure you're just as hopeful as the Democrats that in 2024 you will have a much better representation and a better place for your party. I think just as a whole, as America, today was a rough day. It took us back decades, really, and we were fortunate enough to be a part of a podcast family that is impacted by these things, people that are willing to be vulnerable and share their emotions and their feelings. And so what we did is I kind of looped in a little bit of everyone for us. Our guest was gracious enough to be bumped. We're going to revisit him later. So tonight we have hosts with us from our different podcasts and a past host as well. And we just decided this was too important not to address. If you're an Infamous Chronicles listener, you know that we don't normally go down the political road, but this isn't just politics. This is humanity. This is America. This is our lives. This is our families. This is what's happening. So tonight we're going to be talking about Capitol Hill. This is being recorded right now. And you are going to hear this an hour after the recording, or if you're watching us on Facebook Live, you're hearing it right now. So joining me tonight, your roster is Firefox as always.
Hello.
We have a past host of the Infamous Chronicles who branched off to have her own show, Her Chronicles, and is an active COVID nurse and a good friend of the show. We have Michelle. What up?
What's up, dude?
There she is. From the Murder of Nerds podcast, we have Julio and Action Figure Junkie. Say hi, guys.
Good job, guys.
Hi, guys.
You had one job. You had one job. He says say hi, you say hi.
Yeah. And he had a brief stint on the Infamous Chronicles. You heard him as a guest, and he was a guest host in December on Murder of Nerds. He is starting his own sister show with Julio. They're going to branch out and do their own project starting later this month. But we welcome Atif Myers to the show. Thanks for coming.
What's up, everybody? See, that's how you say hi.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi.
You dirtbags.
All right, so let's start with a base level question. It's Zoom, so there's a delay. It's inevitable that we're going to be interrupting each other. So let's just try our best. If anyone asks a question or makes a statement, just know there's about a 2-second delay. So just try to be cognizant of that. But let's start with you're standing in front of your TV or your phone or the internet, and you see for the first time this morning what's happening. What's going through your heart and head in that moment?
My first thing was, what third world country is this? That's
right.
How I felt automatically. I was just like, this is one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And
when did we become a banana republic?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I just like, are they really going to break into that building? Because I mean, if they're going to go out there and protest, it's one thing. But as soon as they started breaking in, I was just like, yeah, dude, this is. Am I surprised that it's happening? No, I think it's all been leading to this. I think Trump's made it very clear that we were expecting a big surprise. So there it is. I mean, it's not cool in any way, shape, or form.
I think for me, like when I saw it on the news and like I actually saw the people participating in it, I'm not even gonna lie, my first thought was like, oh my God, these people are so ugly. Like now I know why they're mad. Like just as it like making a joke out of it, but I was more in shock and disbelief because we've all heard or anybody say like a civil war is starting and you don't want to believe it, but then you're seeing it in front of you on the television. So
Yep. Atif, what about you?
I was just, well, I'm originally from DC, so I know DC is like super blue. So it's like all these people from out of town. But it's also like, I don't know, it was weird because in my mind, I was like, dude, if this was like, they gunned down Black Lives Matters protesters for less, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
these people stormed the Capitol building because they only brought out like 11 cops for these. Like, they didn't have an army. They just had like 11 dudes standing on the stairs. And like, I used to work in the Capitol, and like, I've had Capitol Police draw guns on me for like way less. So the fact that nothing really happens to these people is not surprising, but it's like, at least hide your racism better.
Yeah. Firefox, what about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, Tiff hit it on the nose there. It sounds about right what he said. So, I mean, I was so angry and so scared at the same time. I mean, I was physically and visibly shaking to my core. You know, on the one side, I was like, this can't be real. This is like a bad Channing Tatum movie. Like, when is he gonna come in and like karate chop, move, and save us all? And then the other side, I was like,
If only.
how is this even happening? And yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing. There was like 12 cops. So, you know, that was amazing because this had been known that it was gonna happen for like a week. We didn't know the extent of it. We didn't know perhaps the entire details, but we knew that the march was encouraged. So why better preparedness wasn't there is alarming to me.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know?
What about you down there, Junkie?
Well,
It was interesting too, because you and I started
don't think
talking
I've ever-
today, and you were a little bit less impacted in the beginning, and as the day progressed, your text messages were more and more emotional and angry. And I you don't normally participate in political discussions, but it was like, you're a perfect example of it. It's affecting all of us.
yes, I've never been more disappointed in my country. Now, I am not. You told me that, you know, most people, most of us in the infamous family, infamous Works family are are pretty staunch liberal. I'm a very moderate. I do not identify as a liberal, but I don't identify as a Republican. I really feel very moderate. I feel that there's insanity, hypocrisy, and absolute horror on both real far sides. Now, granted, these are the far side of the left for the most part, which is what I would assume. But I've never been more disappointed and ashamed to be an American in my life. It was very. I mean, I literally saw. I'm no huge Joe Biden fan, but I am definitely a huge Trump hater. And I think I saw Joe Biden's heart literally break on TV today when he addressed the nation. I thought he was going to friggin' cry.
Yeah.
And whatever you feel about him, that man's going to be the president of our country in a few weeks. And man, I don't envy him for the job ahead of him. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think, you know, I had the opportunity to talk to each of you before this podcast, except for you, Atif. You know, each of you was angry and upset in your own private ways, but they were pretty, it's almost like everyone was feeling the same thing. And it was pretty much disgust, disappointment, and shock. And, you know, admittedly, I think all of us are liberals. Tip, I don't know which way you was.
I am a black Arab. I'm definitely liberals balls.
There you go.
Like, not rooting for the guy who wants to throw me out the country. I'm gonna put it like that.
There you go. So we'll be the first to admit, like, this is going to be a little bit, you know, we're skewed for sure. But in all honesty, like, I wouldn't really provide a platform for anyone that supported today's activities anyway. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, fuck these people, then this isn't the show for you. And you should probably hang up now, because there's nothing that anyone could say, in my opinion. There's no phone call that anyone could make to me today that would convince me that any of today's behaviors was justified.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the day where Mitch McConnell was like, did something decent for once, too.
What was that? Wear a bag over his head?
No, where he was just like, "Hey guys, I'm not gonna like entertain you guys trying to overthrow the election." Like,
Yeah. And then what did we think about Trump's cowardice response to
Oh
say
God.
basically, go home, but I was cheated, you know, like.
What do you think incites these people to do what they're doing? By you telling them that you were cheated from the election. That's the only reason they're there, dude. They're there because of that and that only. And well, maybe not only. They have a lot of hate for a lot of other things. But you telling them, go home, wink, wink. We had the election robbed from us. What the fuck? Excuse me. I'm trying. Oh, sorry. You know I'm a bit heated, and I'll try not to drop a bunch of F-bombs. But what the hell did you? He knew what he was doing. Don't ever think that the Mad King doesn't have ulterior motives for everything he does. And that was like, I have to tell them to go home, but this is how I'm going to tell them to go home. And that's not going to make him go home. God, I hate him. He makes me heated.
And do you guys think this is, you know, there's all this talk about civil war and this, and we've got 2 weeks left. Do you think that this was, you know, Michelle, you gave me a great analogy. Was this the start of a fire, or was this the whole fire?
No, is this the match that started the fire, or was this the end of the fire?
Yeah. What do you guys think?
I think it was always burning since the world.
Could go either way. Only time will tell.
You know what? I really would. I would like to think that this is it. I don't, you know, but I think he'll keep pushing his agenda. He likes the attention, and there'll be something else. And what's going to be really sad is that probably another person will lose their lives because of his stupidity.
Yeah, I mean, that's worth noting too. We did have a woman today was shot in the chest and died. Not a lot around the reasons haven't really been publicly released yet, and you know, maybe we'll never know the true story there on what happened. But
was she breaking into the building?
Yeah, I actually heard she was shot in the neck. She was attempting to break through the glass, and one of the Secret Service security agents shot her in the neck. And it's a tragedy and it's terrible, but he is within his rights and duties to do that. And that's what happens when you want to break into Congress.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
You can get killed.
What happened to the guys that actually got into the Senate floor? Why weren't they also shot?
You would think, right? It said a couple of them took selfies with cops and stuff like.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're too busy taking selfies for the socials, which is just nuts to me. And then the fact that like it just all got kind of sent home. You know, we call in the National Guard finally, way too late. And you know, like I said, if you made it as a joke, but your joke is so valid, is that if that was a collection of black people, shots would have been fired.
Oh, dude.
Rioting everywhere, fires, all these white cops, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, it would have been a giant race thing, but it's white people. And so they were allowed to break a fucking barrier to get to the doors and into Congress. That's crazy.
Dude, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that nobody got shot. More than one person.
I used to work at the Capitol, like doing like lighting for like events and stuff in my early 20s. And like I've had Secret Service and stuff run up on me with guns when I've had full clearance to be there, just because I am who I am. Like,
how long was your beard at the time? That's what I have to ask.
I wasn't looking as terroristy, but still, I had clearance.
That's like the only thing, and I hope this doesn't come across terribly, but like I'm so grateful that there's a pandemic right now, because otherwise the Capitol would have been packed. There would have been school children on tours and families. And I mean, we could have been looking at something so much worse than it was. And I don't mean to take away from the woman who lost her life, but it could have been.
Well, and your point is valid too, Firefox, in that all of this was happening during a pandemic. Like the last thing that DC authorities and Virginia authorities needed during COVID was a freaking, oh, see there, junkie, I broke my own rule. You know, the last thing they needed was a freaking riot, you know, and everyone's like, oh, the police didn't expect this many people. It's like, have you not been paying attention? Have you not been watching Donald Trump for the last 4 years? How did you not see this coming?
Yeah.
Also, the one time where they could get away with it and wear masks, they aren't. because there's so many people and there's so many pictures of them without wearing masks, and like the surveillance technology there, they have all their faces and addresses already. If
I
they're
hope they get in trouble if they don't.
Surveillance.
If they
Everybody's
don't,
taking selfies.
exactly, it's true.
are they going to get in trouble? I mean, because I would figure if me and a tip broke into the Capitol, I mean, and got away with it, they'd be knocking on our door in a few hours. I hope they start knocking on people's doors and arresting people.
They are calling for like full punishment.
Yeah,
Well,
it needs to happen.
they have to make an example of it, because what's next? The White House?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I mean, they stormed one of what we would as civilians assume. I mean, Atif, you work there, but like as a civilian, I assume buildings of that importance are heavily fortified and protected, and yet a bunch of completely unarmed, completely non-riot geared, civilians were able to bypass, national security and the presidential's private security and the police. They got past all of it with one injury. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah, and it's such an important day today too. Aren't you would think there would be more security because there's more people in the building.
Well, yeah, and wasn't the vice president there?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and for the first time in his career, Pence balled up and did something mildly admirable. And then you got that's just another body under the train that is Donald Trump. It took less than 10 minutes for him to start shit talking this guy that's, waited
Stood
to
by
butter
him
with him for 4
admirably
years.
for 4 years. Love Trump or hate him, Mike Pence, love him or hate him. Trump's whole thing is loyalty. It's not so much, he doesn't care if you're smart. He doesn't care if you're rich. He cares if you're loyal. And when you're disloyal to him, that's when that's when it's full scorched earth. And what's up with this dude? Did you guys see the picture of this guy putting his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
Stealing her mail.
have some respect. Like, I don't care if you're a Dem. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care what you are, man. That's the Speaker of the House. And if you don't agree with her policies, that's one thing. But going into her office and putting her feet up on her desk and taking a selfie or taking a picture for the Insta, dude, I hope, man, if I put my feet up on my boss's desk, I'd at least get fired. I hope that guy goes to prison, jackass.
Somebody stole the podium.
Funny. Yeah.
What?
Somebody
Oh,
stole the podium. Like he walked out
Oh.
with the podium.
I felt like that photo was a little Photoshop, though, don't you think?
Oh, the guy on Nancy Pelosi's desk?
No,
No, I
it's
stole the
podium guy.
Oh,
I don't know.
who knows? Maybe not.
I mean, how are you walking out of
Not
Congress
today.
with the podium in the first place? Like, what's the logistics of that move?
Green.
Yeah,
Hey,
you put it under your shirt.
every time I've gone to Washington D.C., I've left with a souvenir.
Yeah, but not the podium of Congress.
If it was in reach, brother. If it was in reach.
Is that how you came upon that pillow that was sewed by Mary Todd Lincoln, Julio?
Yeah.
You have to wonder too, like on just a purely logical level, non-emotional, what was the agenda today? What was the goal? To somehow break into Congress and like kill the people that were voting, that were confirming Biden? Like what? Okay, say they stormed it and they got inside, and then what? Are these people, what were they willing to commit?
Steal the electoral college votes before they can be counted?
Maybe.
I couldn't. There was pictures of senators in there that were cowering in fear, understandably, but there were senators like from Oklahoma, who is one of the guys that's responsible for this happening. Why are you cowering in fear in front of your people? It's just that shit's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to like drive up to support a leader or drive out of state to support a leader, and he's gonna tell you to go storm like the Congress, I don't think you have much thought or much of a thought process. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anybody we like enough to go storm a Capitol building for.
I wouldn't even do that.
When you look at those guys that marched today, do any of those guys look like they went in with a plan?
No, they're all motivated by anger and anger solely. They're all some of the angriest people in America.
It's crazy how, they made a lot of like joking comparisons from Trump to Hitler. And today, like, not to be a fear monger or spread propaganda, but the reality is Hitler was one of the greatest rulers that this planet will ever see, in the sense of what he was able to accomplish and how he was able to get people to follow him. Like, just from a leadership standpoint, I'm not condoning what he did. Trump was able to legitimately brainwash millions of people in America into believing his agenda with absolutely no proof of it ever accomplishing anything. It's so baffling to me. This is a perfect analogy of the power and danger of social media. And I think that today and his presidency will be studied forever. Forever. This will be studied as worst case scenario right here. God willing, this is worst case scenario.
Yeah, I can't wait to see cancel culture take your comments out of context. I can see the news on Twitter now. Podcast host says Hitler was awesome.
Yeah, right. Twisted.
I mean, he was good in Jojo Rabbit.
He was good because Taika Waititi. Do you guys think that we're waking up tomorrow to more problems or less from this?
It's already riots in LA.
Yep. And
That's what my mom was telling me. Is that true? I haven't been able to find that on the news.
Yeah, there were riots in
Well,
downtown LA
Firefox said Ventura County's all fucked up too.
Yeah,
What?
Thousand Oaks was, and yeah, my husband works
Where?
in LA, and he got sent home because of everything that's happening downtown. But I don't know. I think if it was going to get worse, I think we would have seen it a lot worse today. You know, because there was like such an outlandishly insane thing happened today, and then it stopped. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think if it was going to get worse, they're talking about how Congress is going to come back in and finish certifying the votes, which I think is amazing.
Tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At an
They're
undisclosed
doing it right now.
location. So they're at Pizzagate currently.
They're what?
It's crazy.
They're at Pizzagate counting the votes.
I was talking to my brother today, and he goes, "The Capitol is secure," in quotation marks. Right after he says, "This isn't something that CNN should be reporting. This is Gerard Butler's next title for his movie."
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
The
With Channing
sequel
Tatum.
to Geostorm.
Yeah. It's like, you heard this. Everyone said this. Is third world country. And I think it's important to note the reason why it looked like a third world country wasn't because of the size of it. It wasn't because of what they were doing. It's because in third world countries, there isn't organized law. There isn't organized government. And today in America, it looked like there was no organized law or government. And it's like, we're on the world stage. Everyone in the world saw how stupid we could be. And that's terrifying to show that level of weakness over one single human. All of this is for one person who's wrong, too.
It's been going on for 4 years. They've been laughing. It's like most sitcoms end before, in less time than this. It's just sad, and it's embarrassing. And I wouldn't blame people if I saw like some other country, laughing their ass off. I'd be like, yeah, dude, this is what we live in. It's sad. Definitely.
Dude, speaking of laughing, all of Russia, I mean, not to be a conspiracy theorist monk or anything like that, but dude, when we pull some S like this, all of Russia is collectively putting their feet on their desks and smoking a cigar and drinking a glass of vodka on the ice and laughing at us. What do you think China, North Korea, and Russia think of this shit right now? Do you think that they think this is awesome and they're laughing and they're looking at us and pointing fingers? I don't know, man.
I think
this is not good for us. This is not good for us.
No, they're winning is what they're doing. Is they're winning.
Right.
Everything they're doing is everything that they hate about us and everything that we've preached for so long, that we're so much better, that we have such a greater way of life, is diminished. And they're watching it and they're going, look, they're just like us, or they're worse than us. We're not that great country anymore. It's terrible. It's embarrassing.
Hey, Infamous, can I ask a question for y'all?
Yeah.
So I have some friends that are pretty staunch Republicans, and I like to listen to both sides and make up my own mind. Now, I have friends that are staunch Republicans that have been telling me for some time that the division in our country didn't just start with President Shithead, that it started some time ago, and that there are things that Obama did that kind of stirred a lot of the pot and really started the huge divide that is our country now. So whether that's true or not, I don't want to argue about it. That's not what I'm asking. But we can definitely see that in the last 4 years, that no semblance of resolution or bridging the gap or coming together was even remotely on the agenda. If anything, it was the opposite. What do you guys think? Do you think that Biden, whether you love him, whether you don't, do you think that he can maybe get any healing going, bring us together? I mean, dude, all you guys talking about civil war, man, and man, that's scary. Do you think that he can do anything to bring us together in any form, in any way?
No, not at all. I think
No?
the best thing that could have happened in the last day was us sweeping Georgia, because it's so crazy where we're at that we needed to have full control to try to fix this problem. That's how way out of control. I would never agree that the Democrats should control everything. I don't believe that. I think we need differences of opinions and good arguments to get this country going. But right now, it's so bad that we need this right now just to get it to an okay level. Are we going to mend things with the Republicans or the people that believe all these conspiracies? No. But, we might quiet them down by giving them $2,000, and getting some things, new agendas and new bills passed, a couple of them that'll maybe help out a little bit.
I think too that I don't know, I can't say whether he will mend anything, but I can say that for the first time in 4 years, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, besides the crazy Trump people, because let's be real, there are more non-Trump supporting Republicans than there are Trump supporting Republicans. And they have to hide and quiet themselves. Oh yeah, for sure. They're embarrassed to be Republicans right now.
Oh,
and
yeah, sure.
I think if nothing else, Biden will finally at least be a president. You may not like what he says, you may not like what he does, but he's somebody with 8 years of experience. Now he's going to add 4 more to it. He's somebody that listens to both sides. He's somebody that at least treats people with respect, acts responsible, isn't fucking crazy. And Biden won't be tweeting things on Twitter. You have to remember, Obama was the first president to have access to social media, right? And he wasn't crazy. Then you put a crazy person in with access to social media, and for some reason you allow him the ability to say whatever he wants, whenever he wants. The fact that isn't added to the Constitution, that presidents should not be able to go on social media, is some kind of regulation needs to happen, because he was able to, whenever he wanted to, reach out and stir up millions of people at his convenience, any time of the day, whenever he wanted. And that's never happened before. And Biden is not going to do that. He's not that guy. Kamala is not that woman. So if nothing else, at least the stupidity and the rhetoric and the constantly boiling water will be turned to a simmer. Right. I don't know that we're going to put a bow on it and have a Merry Christmas, but I think that, at least we're going to stop burning. Imagine another mass shooting with Trump as president versus a mass shooting with Biden as president, right? And Biden's never been the guy that's like, I'm going to take all your guns away. And this is the thing, is that Republicans believe okay, Democrats want gays, abortions, free medical, and they also want me to pay more taxes, and they want to take away my gun. Well, A, stop using your Bible to justify your politics, and B, none of those things are entirely true. Not every Democrat believes in abortion. Not every Democrat believes in marriage equality. Not every, just like not every Republican believes that gays shouldn't get married. It's like these agendas are so stupidly concreted to the Democratic and Republican Party, and we're so past them as a society to even start a dialogue about how Roe v. Wade was going to get repealed. It's 2021. We're so far past this shit. The conversation is beyond going backwards and regressing to this. And that's something Biden's not going to do. He's not going to take the conversation back decades like Trump did. So, you know what? Is there going to be all hand holding across the aisle? No, man, but that's my opinion. Sorry for the long-winded answer. I know there's a lot of us.
No, I think whatever Biden does, I don't know if he'll get full credit for it anyway from the Trump crowd. I feel like they're just going to say that it's Trump's reason why it's good. When the economy comes back, they're just going to say it's everything that Trump did, and never mind the 8 years that it took Obama and Biden to rebuild it, to this point before Trump screwed it up. So I don't know. If
You
in
have
terms
to-
of like, can we come together and mend? Yeah, I guess it won't be as like openly divisive probably, but like I don't know, man. I feel like the Trump crowd is still going to just say Trump did everything that Biden's doing and never really give him his credit.
I think one of
I
the
don't
most
think-
important things for
Go
healing
ahead, Mark.
too is that we have got to, as a people and as a country, stop putting everything that happens in this country in a Democratic or Republican bubble.
Thank
You
you.
So much of this has nothing to do with politics. A woman's right to choose what she does with her body isn't a political decision. You know, paying higher or lower taxes, that's a political decision. That's a countrywide government level decision. Deciding what Firefox does with her boobs and vagina is nobody's
Mine.
business but hers. It doesn't
Mine.
need to be a conversation held anywhere except in her private house. You know what I mean?
I want it otherwise.
Or right here with us, because yeah.
Yeah. Or if I make you talk about it on the show, yeah, for sure. But like, I own a gun. I'm a Democrat. I believe in abortion. I believe in gay rights. I have many guns in this house. I go shooting regularly. I can't wait to teach
That's
my
awesome.
10-year-old daughter how to shoot. That doesn't make me, you know, a bad person or a bad Democrat or a fucking, you know, any of these things. Do I wish California was an open carry state? Yeah, I'd love it. Do most Democrats believe that that's not right? Absolutely. And I'm fine with that opinion. And it doesn't mean I'm going to shove mine down their throat. You know what I mean? And that's the
Yes.
thing is like the political agenda is what divides the country. By making everyone decide, is this issue Republican or Democratic? That's why we're creating division in our own points. My opinion.
Don't tell Atif where your guns are at.
What? I was like, it sounds awesome. I love shooting. I hate shooting ranges though, because people have like the worst etiquette. But I love shooting.
Oh yeah, they're always
You know-
shooting. They're freaking pointing in the wrong direction.
But
Well,
go
ahead.
It's dumb. Never mind. It's good. It's not important. Go ahead.
I honestly think that the whole tweeting thing is not going to disappear. I think social media is going to be here to stay, and people want to hear from the president. But the thing about it is, they're just not going to Biden is not going to let him just sit on the toilet and get pissed off about somebody saying something negative about him. You know, I think that somebody will say, hey, you know, you should put this out and talk about this today, or make a quote today. You know, wish somebody something nice today or something positive. I think social media is definitely going to play a role because, I mean, the elections changed. I think the elections have been changed. Everybody's going to vote from home now. They're going to get more access to how to vote, and social media is there. We're going to inform people that way. It's here to stay. It's just, except we're not going to have some crazy dude taking a shit, texting stuff in the middle of the night.
As long as he doesn't run again in the next 4 years.
Oh, he will.
Hey,
Come
that's
on, you know it.
That's an interesting
You know he will.
topic. That Firefox, I'm glad you brought that up. It never even occurred to me. Infamous, you said that to me a couple of months ago. You said, you know, that at the time, a lot of Republican senators and people of power were not coming out on Trump because they didn't want to get on his bad side, because you thought for sure he was going to run again 4 years. And to this day, it's still, even the thought of it blows my mind. What's up with that? Is that really a thing?
I don't think it'll happen.
It's a theory, but I feel like they're right now pushing the 25th Amendment to get him out of power now. Who knows, like in the next 4 years, how often he's going to get tried for these charges that are brought up against him.
Well, I think he
Yeah,
screwed
you
up
have
by
to-
pardoning everybody. That's what
Yeah.
everybody he pardoned. He screwed up because now they can say whatever. They have no protection. They have to talk about what happened with Trump in court. They openly have to discuss it. It's part of the deal when you get pardoned.
And you have to remember too, at this point, he's pretty much single-handedly destroyed the Republican Party. I mean, once he's not president anymore, he will have nobody in power on his side. Nobody will support him when they don't have to anymore. And they are never going to let a guy like him get elected again, because he could be studied later as the end of the Republican Party. It could move to be independent and Democratic only. But I mean, the damage he's done is so irreversibly bad that they're standing on the brink of self-destruction. And there's too many Christian right-wing conservatives in this country that they need hope, and they need a role model that they can look to, just like we do as Democrats. And it'll never be a guy like Trump again, ever. They're going to be so careful the next time around. In my opinion, I just think, I think they're going to really be careful.
Well, you know how like people always said, oh, there needs to be a third party. I think Trump has, with him destroying the Republicans will be fine. It'll take them a few years to get back, a few terms before they get back into office. But this is the start of that third party. And it's these guys that stormed the building today that Trump's going to start his own party with. He's got those people in his pocket. He had them in the beginning. This is what they told him when they told Trump, hey, man, you could win this election if you use these guys as your base. And that's who he's talked to the whole entire time, is this base. This is that third party. This isn't over for Trump, but he ain't going to get elected, but he's going to start some shit. It's basically like a cult. It's a cult is basically what he started.
Yeah.
Yeah, his platform and his following will not go away just because he leaves office.
You're right.
I like to use the term cult because I decided today that I'm going to stop calling his supporters. From now on, to me, they're followers. I use that term specifically and purposefully. They're not supporters; they are followers. What's the difference? I'm sure you all know what I'm saying. What's the difference between a supporter and a follower?
Yeah, Michelle, we haven't heard from you in a while. What are you thinking down there? As a COVID nurse yourself, what did you feel when you saw, those thousands of people today again gathered for Trump without masks on that are going to be flooding the hospitals in 2 weeks?
Really excited because I know a couple of those dudes are old as fuck. So if they get so for me, I was like, yes, get you some of that COVID, boo. Like
that guy looks like he's got diabetes.
Survive, that's the funny part. They're gonna die, so I'm kind of like, yeah, you get in without that mask, it's exciting a little bit. But part of me is just like, dude, you get your research on YouTube. Like, why is this validated for you? Why? I don't know. I just feel like it's such a loss of reality with a lot of those people. Like, they just haven't accepted what's really going on.
Yeah. How many people have you seen die, Michelle, that totally could have avoided exposure to COVID while you've been in your job?
I want to say 70%.
Damn.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And people
crazy.
still don't learn, man. It's part of the job, So it is what it is.
It'd be so heartbreaking to have to watch people die that could have completely avoided it if it wasn't for Donald Trump.
It's the expiration reports that I'm writing on a daily basis are not fun for me.
Oh,
no.
I didn't even like the sound of that word, expiration report. Oh.
Yeah, what's that? What's an expiration report? I mean,
Guys.
Let's put the two words together.
That's the new title for our new script, Atif.
Expiration report.
Yeah,
I'm down. Sounds so grim.
Good Lord. Yeah, that sounds like a horror movie.
Yeah, Eli Roth presents expiration report.
Yeah, it's so bad that every level 4 hospital that has a pediatric unit and a pediatric intensive care unit all had to move their patients out to Children's Hospital LA. So now all the kids are in the kids hospital and all of those units became COVID units. At Huntington, we opened up an auditorium to store other COVID patients. And we have about now a total of 12 floors. Each floor is with 100 patients. Our entire ICU and DOU, all COVID.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that must be so frustrating.
It's aggravating.
I got people on a daily basis telling me that the hospitals aren't filled.
Well, yeah, but that's because, okay, so Michelle and I were talking about this before the show, is that one of the most tragic, horrible things about COVID is that it became political. It should have never been. If you have the flu, you're not going to ask if you have the Republican or Democratic flu. You're going to go to the doctor and you're going to get medicine to treat your flu, right? And instead, somehow, the most impactful disease that will happen in our lifetime, God willing, it became about who you support. I'm not going to wear a mask because Donald Trump doesn't wear masks. I'm going to wear a mask because, Obama wears masks, Biden wears masks. It's so fucking irrelevant, to be careful and social distance, or I need to go to the bar, and I'm an LA restaurant that's going to close, so I'm going to just totally disregard what Governor Newsom says, because Newsom the gruesome, and I'm just going to keep my place open, and everyone's going to come, and I'll just suck these fines up. No big deal. I don't have to pay them anyway. And people will go out and line up and support that kind of rebellion action because they're stupid, because they're so desperate for normality that they believe is coming back when it's never coming back. The world will never ever be what it was before March 2020. Just like the world will never be what it was before September 11th, 2001. The world will look different after this. And any kind of, I think one of the worst things that people did was put hope in stuff that was never coming. And then they used that hope as their rationale, like, oh, this is all going to be over by the end of the year. Well, no, it's not. It's going to be cold again, and we're all stupid, and we went for Thanksgiving, and we went for Christmas, and here comes a surge. And it's like, how did you not see this coming? In your head it was going to come. You just chose not to believe it because Trump said not to. And the fact that any of that at all has anything to do with a life-threatening disease is beyond comprehension to me. Again, this is just my opinion.
It blows my mind that he was saying it was a hoax forever.
Oh my God.
And then he gets it.
And he lived.
And people are like, you see, it's not that big a deal. Well, I thought it was a hoax. Come on, guys. Are you serious?
He was short of breath on his freaking speech when he came back from the hospital. I was like, mother, you're short of breath. Go back.
He also had the best medicine and the best healthcare possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
He took it all personal. That's been my belief from the beginning. Trump took America's complete takeover of COVID personal. Like I should have been the guy to stop this, and since I couldn't, I can't acknowledge it because this couldn't happen on my watch because I'm perfect. And I think his way of looking at it was so arrogant and megalomaniacal. If he had just stopped and looked at the science, we might be in a better situation. But for him, it was just like America is going to see this as my fault, and they're going to blame me for it. So I have to downplay it. Instead of just dealing with reality on reality's terms, he had to act like Cobra Commander.
What's science?
Exactly. It's so funny too because he would actively insult, people who spent their entire lives educating themselves through the highest level of education, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to earn degrees that none of us could ever earn, but they're all idiots because Trump, who's never been associated with science, medicine, or politics, says they're idiots, so they must be wrong. And it's like, and then somehow he got the country to turn against Fauci. It's just crazy to me. I don't know.
It blows my mind. So I'm interested because everyone on here, except for Michelle, so 4 of us and 2 are not. We're parents. We're eventually our kids will all be in high school one day. They'll probably study this. How are you talking about what's going on right now to your kids? How will you talk to them about it when they're old enough to understand it? I try not to talk about it too much. I mean, my wife is very protective of the children and informs them about COVID and being clean and all this stuff. But I get frustrated. I watch the news, and I probably shouldn't watch it as much as I do. I probably have an addiction to the news. And he sees my frustration on my face, and then I see him going, "Oh, Trump, oh, this and that." And I really didn't want any of that. I don't think he is ready to understand anything that's going on, really. But in the future, I think they'll look back and see just how crazy, and we're going to get blamed for it too. I mean, hopefully by the time he's 20 years old, 19, 20, is starting his own family, they'll be smarter than us and not allow something like this to ever happen again. To believe in science,
Firefox, you have a late teenager and an early 5-year-old son, right? 6. So you have an 18-year-old and a 6-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So you have one that's old enough to understand it and one that isn't. What kind of dialogue are you having with them?
I mean, we talk about it constantly. I mean, unfortunately, with my little one, he's always like, "Oh, is it because of the coronavirus? Oh, it's because of the coronavirus. Like everything is because of the virus." But with my oldest, you know, he's missing out on a lot because he's a senior this year, and
That's a bummer.
you know, we have to talk about it constantly because it's his entire social life, you know, has come to a halt, and it's basically the socialization that he's getting from playing video games, you know, is what is his interaction, his peer interaction now. So we talk about politics, we talk about what's going on and why the restrictions are important, you know, why it's important to listen to the scientists, why this isn't a political issue, and it shouldn't be, to your point, absolutely. But I think the conversation, it really helps to prepare them for when they're hit with something, you know, and when they're adults. You know, how did my parents handle this? What were their mistakes and what were their triumphs?
I like that you said, how did my parents handle it? Because Sean and I have talked about that a lot. And I've always tried to come from a place where one day, you know, many influencers will tell the story of how her life was for this year. And, you know, I desperately hope that it will be a story of like how well, you know, Mrs. Infamous and I handled it. And it's not all going to be perfect. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm like you. I believe in open dialogue, but I'm also in the same tent as Julio, where I have caught many Infamous saying anti-Trump things, and I have to slow it down and reel it back in and explain why I personally don't support Trump, and that none of those reasons make him stupid, or, you know, all these things that we know, we're mature enough to know what they mean, but you can't tell an 8-year-old this person is stupid and have her understand why, and especially when I don't use that word very often. So I've caught myself in Julio's position too, where I have to reel it back in and be like, all right, there's a difference between open dialogue and appropriate dialogue, and I struggle in the middle there sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And Junkie, you don't talk about it at all with yours, right?
Well, obviously, we've discussed with her what's going on with the virus, but as far as politics go, which I'm not very political, but I certainly I don't believe in trying to get my daughter's going to be 7 at the end of this month, and I have no interest in her beliefs being my beliefs. She can make her own mind up in virtually everything under the sun. So I don't, she may hear us watch the news and kind of talk about it, but I don't try to, like you said, be very negative either way on either side. I don't really want to. I remember being a kid, and a cousin came to visit me with his uncle, who was on my mom's side. And this was in the 80s. And I remember my uncle saying some staunch anti-Reagan stuff. And my little cousin, who was, I don't know, like a year older than me, so little kid, laughing and joining in with him. And I was a little kid, and I remember thinking at this point in my life, wow, you got a little drone there. You got a little copycat. That's weird. And it always has affected me my whole life. I think that's really lame. So I don't try to do that with my daughter. But when we were at a store recently, and my daughter showed you a picture, like they were selling, was it $20 bills with Trump's face on it? And what did she say to you? Infamous.
Is he on?
Yeah, he's looks like he's connecting.
No. So
Well, anyway, she picked up the $20 bill and said, "Why would anybody ruin this with this guy's face?"
he's not an attractive man.
No.
Yeah, he is as ugly as a bag of dicks, though. Let's be honest. His face just makes me sick.
See, this is the kind of stuff I say when I'm watching the TV, and then my kid repeats it. It's funny. Like when I was picking up from school, when they were still going to school, and I walked up to get him, and I go, "What are you guys talking about?" They were talking about Trump, and I'm like, dude, you guys are in 4th grade. What are you guys talking about Trump
Yeah,
for?
We're talking about Ghostbusters.
Yeah, talk about your bike, or cute little girls or something. But they were talking about it. It's crazy that when I was his age, I didn't even know who. I remember the day that Reagan got shot. I remember I didn't know who President Reagan was. I just knew that it happened like on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, and it was ruining my cartoon time because they cut to the news about this, and I'm like, who the hell is this? What do I care? Put on,
Hinckley.
Yeah, put Scooby Doo back on. I had no idea who Reagan was, and that's how it should be for kids. They don't need to know anything about this stuff.
We actually got a listener question, guys, on our live feed on Facebook. So Luis asks, let's start with the ladies first. What do you think about the people who did everything they were told to do during the quarantine, wore a mask, social distance, quarantined, but yet somehow ended up contracting the virus anyway? What's the message there, that they can still be supportive of the science, or what do you say about encouragement? Is it just they were one of the unlucky ones? What do you guys think? Firefox, you go first, and then Michelle, please.
Well, I think
great question, by the way, Luis.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because I don't think that just because you took the precautions that's a guarantee. I think that this virus is super unknown. We don't have the information, we don't have the education, we don't have the history with and the experience with this to know one way or another. We're trying our best and playing catch up on this, where most of the time it's okay, we've studied something or we've seen something, this is how you don't contract it. It's like we don't know how it's replicating. We don't know exactly how contagious it is. We don't know the long-term effects of it. So that's why it blows my mind that people won't listen to the precautions, because there's such little information around it. It's terrifying.
Great answer. What do you think, Michelle?
Remind me of the question again.
All right, Stoner. What do you think about people that they did everything right? They wore the mask, social distance, and were quarantined, but they still somehow got the virus. What's the message there? How do you keep people like that positive? And
here's the thing that people forget. Even if you quarantine, like, viruses can exist from the Instacart guy delivering your groceries, picking up your mail, picking up your Amazon packages, which I'm sure you've done. Like, there's still ways of getting the viruses. Viruses are very tiny, tiny, tiny. And again, I don't think anybody is exempt from this virus. I've met CNAs that were on the front lines for like 5 or 6 months, and then boom, on the 7th month they get it. And they're suffering from severe, complicated conditions after COVID, because with COVID, you get hypercoagulation in your blood, you're more susceptible to clots, the vascularity of your veins change. Like, so for the elderly, it really fucks them up. And this virus is insidious because we don't know how it's going to act on one body to another. So it's just fucking crazy. I find it to be a very selfish time in humanity, especially in the United States of America. Because how selfish are you to like go outside and not wear your fucking mask? I don't know.
Yeah, I that's a good point. I think that it's very crazy that, like, okay, maybe you don't believe that there's a virus or that you're gonna get it, but like, if somebody else believes it, how hard is it to just put your mask on as a courtesy to another human being?
Exactly.
That blows my mind.
I live in progressive towns in LA. I live in Highland Park. And I went to the local Trader Joe's, and even there, you found an old man that didn't want to wear his mask on, and he got kicked out of Trader Joe's.
He should have been kicked out.
Was he wearing a MAGA hat?
No, he wasn't wearing a mask, and then he got mad at the guy for kicking him out.
No, was he wearing a MAGA hat?
What are you looking at? I'm like, yeah, you asshole. Nobody here did nobody here didn't want to take off their mask. It's only you, bro. You're a fucking embarrassment.
I agree. We were at Bed Bath & Beyond the other day. For you millennials, that's something you have to do when you're married. And the
Home
store
Depot
was closing. So there was a lot of people in there. I was uncomfortable. You know, Julio and Sean, you guys have both been with me in crowded places. I get really uncomfortable. I find some corner to back out of, or I get the hell out. But so here comes Fuckface without a mask on, and he's got his daughter with him. And without skipping a beat, I put my hand on my daughter's hand, and I walked over and go, "This is how you deal with a bully." I walked over to the manager, and I said, "Listen, this motherfucker needs to go right here. He's endangering your employees and everyone in the store. So either you ask him to leave, or I'll call the police. You can decide right now." And I walked with her over to that guy, and she escorted him out of the store. And I was like, "That's how you deal with a bully, babe. You don't need to cuss at him. You don't need to yell at him. You don't need to push him or shove him or do any of this shit. You just need to remind him how stupid he is and then fix it."
Mhm.
And to the lady's credit, she's like, "What?" She was gobsmacked that there was someone in the store without a mask on, because, you know, obviously that's against it's not a law. What are they called now?
A rule?
Guideline?
Guidelines.
No, like you can actually be legally reprimanded for it, but it's not a law.
No
I
idea.
think you can get a ticket in some towns. You can
Ordinance.
get a ticket.
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
That's a good word.
So, all right, we have another good question. How would you have felt in this if you were having this conversation and they hadn't stormed the Capitol building but had gathered peacefully outside of it?
I would have no problem with
wouldn't
it.
be having this
care.
talk right
Yeah.
now.
Who would
We
care?
would be
We'd be talking about the
our
Karate
regularly
Kid.
scheduled guests.
Dude,
Karate Kid.
This guy had so
Yeah, I
many. He had so many live events and like hundreds of people there during when he was running. Like we didn't.
Yeah.
No one cared. It's them storming the Capitol building.
Nope.
That's the big deal. That's treason.
I think it's important too to that was a good question to ask, because none of us want anybody to believe that we're in any way saying that people shouldn't exercise their constitutional rights to gather and to peacefully protest, and even, you know, semi-aggressively protest where it's, you know, mildly, it's loud and semi-forcefully. But once you're violating the laws in people's private space and desecrating buildings and breaking into a federal building, we're talking about an entirely different thing. There's no rights to behave like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, good question.
No law gives
All right.
gives you freedom of doing that.
No, definitely not. Nobody gives you the freedom to be a bully. All right, we are at our time, guys. Does anyone have any last statements they would like to make? I will open up the floor to anyone that wants to say anything. No? All right, perfect. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this impromptu episode. If you want to see the video and you didn't watch the live feed, it'll be up on our YouTube at The Infamous Chronicles. It'll be on our Instagram as well. Thank you to each of our guests, Atif Myers, Julio, Michelle, Action Figure Jumpy, and Firefox. Thank you for just jumping right on this with me, figuring out the Zoom thing, getting this going. I appreciate each of you. Michelle, it was great seeing you after so long. You've been missed. And thank you to our listeners. You guys, please share your thoughts if you don't agree with our conversation tonight. We still would like to hear your feedback. We don't only want the positive stuff. Feel free to shoot us a DM. You can also email us at info@infamousworks.com. Make sure to follow the show. And again, as always, make sure that you visit civiesapparel.com to support the veterans that are out there, the National Guard that is out there right now protecting the Capitol building. Use our promo code Chronicles20 to save 20%. And remember, all of their apparel gives percentages back to local veterans organizations. Thank you, guys. And we will see you next week on the Infamous Chronicles. Good night, all you guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Peace.
Right.